Welcome to the dead zone. I think we can call it in the NBA year, which is getting closer and closer to a 24/7 league. Summer league is over. Trade talks are dead. And even though there's some things that are huge that could still happen, we are getting no noise on them. We're getting a couple of tweets from Woj and Shams every day, and it's always some bullshit like an update on assistant coaching or a free agent that's still out there. By the way, Jordan Nwora, still a restricted free agent. Somebody come get him. Somebody sign and trade him. Come on, come get him. Like I said, there's nothing going on, but there's still some things we can talk about. It's been a couple of weeks since we recorded anyway, so we wanted to hop on. Thank you for coming back and listening to Hoop Truthers, opening your third eye once again. Joining me as always, Nick Andre at Nick Andre ATR on Twitter. Dre, my guy, how's it going?
Fantastic. I am disappointed in the NBA right now. We have nothing for free agency. I was expecting Woj bombs, Shams bombs, even though Shams has been cooking Woj on Twitter. But honestly, with everything that happened in the month of June, with a lot of trade requests, I was thinking, July is going to be fucking insane. It is currently July 18th.
Yep.
And it's dead right now. But there's still a lot of basketball to talk about, so we're here.
Yeah, there is. We're going to talk about the rumor stuff too, the KD, the Kyrie, the Donovan Mitchell. Hold on for that. We're going to start with the actual hoops. Summer League just finished. We can start here, and then I want to hear your thoughts, Dre, especially. But let's start with the MVP of NBA 2K23 Summer League 2022, a handful of a name, Keegan Murray. Fourth overall pick to the Sacramento Kings, a much maligned pick at the time when they chose him over Jaden Ivey. Dre, how did you feel about watching Keegan? I'm sure you caught a little bit of Keegan while watching Summer League.
I caught a lot of Keegan. Honestly, he played really phenomenal. He played better than I thought he would on the Sacramento team, showing his ability to stretch the floor, showing his defensive ability. He had some good moments in that Paolo game when they went to double overtime, I believe. So Keegan is really showing his worth, to say the least. He's really showing what he's capable of. I know Kings fans were very upset, with that fourth overall pick, expecting Jaden Ivey to go that pick. But honestly, looking at it, this might be the good fit. We still have to figure out, what the lineup's going to look like with this future Sacramento team playing under Mike Brown. And then, of course, you got guys like Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, Harrison Barnes, Donovan Mitchell, and the rest of these guys. So I think Keegan will probably at least be top 3, in my opinion, in Rookie of the Year voting this year, if he plays exceptional the way that he did in the Summer League. Right. If he does get that opportunity, I think that he can. He's showing his versatility, stretching the floor, playing great on the defensive end. Showing his strength under the basket as well. Like, he's showing that, like, that to me, he's showing like he's an all-star in the making.
I think I agree, first with that, Dre. And, well, I want to ask a question. Before I dive into it, I want to ask you the question. Mike Brown is kind of an old-fashioned coach and a defensive-minded coach. Those guys can be a little bit of old school in the way of rookies, Main example is Borrego having LaMelo come off the bench for most of his rookie year. Is Keegan a first-day starter?
I would love him to.
You'd hope right?
Yeah, I think we both agree on that. I would love him to. But honestly, with the point you make about Mike Brown being a very old school type coach, I wouldn't be surprised if he was I wouldn't be surprised if he was a part of the second unit for like a good 10 to 15 games. As long as he shows his worth, just like LaMelo was about a few years ago in Charlotte, which didn't make sense to me either.
Right.
As long as he shows his worth in the second unit, as long as he's able to play in those crunch time minutes for Sacramento, be able to play phenomenal, then at least in about 10 to 15 games, if that were to happen, you have no choice but to start him.
I think Keegan's got the personality where he just take the challenge anyways. I just disagree with the process all throughout. I guess there's like a version of this where Keegan ends up being like really bad defensively. I don't see that happening, but I guess if that happens, I can see Mike putting him in the second unit or benching him for a little bit. You guys know that I am going to be a fan of Keegan Murray because of who he says he bases his game off of. Multiple times since the pre-draft process, post-draft process, summer league interviews, they ask Keegan Murray who he models his game after, who he's emulating in his practice, in his training, and every time the answer is the same. He might include some other players, but every time at least one player is included, and that's Chris Middleton of the Milwaukee Bucks. And if you've watched him as much as I do, you understand why you'd want to do it. I mean, Keegan is bigger and I think more athletic, even though he's not as athletic as Jaden Ivey. Chris Middleton is not an athletic player anymore than Chris Middleton. And if you can match the things that Chris Middleton is good at, which is just tough shot making, perfect mid-game, 3-level scorer, truly, 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 pick and roll player, some playmaking, not a ton, more than he used to be. He's improved at his size. I mean, if Chris Middleton was Keegan Murray's size right now, he'd be a top 15 player in the league instead of top 20.
Oh, without question, question. Like with Chris's skill set, oh my god, that would be nasty though. Him and Giannis. Oh,
so he's shown flashes of that in summer league. And the one point that we always have to make: Keegan Murray was older than a lot of the dudes there. I mean, he's supposed to dominate them. At least he did. It would have been worse if he didn't. But a lot of the things he was doing was initiating, taking threes off the dribble, running the pick and roll, making decisions, playmaking, which not necessarily going to be his role in Sacramento. That's more Sabonis's role. I hope they do run some things with Keegan. But let's move on from Keegan because I don't want to talk.
Hang on just 1 second. I wanted to bring up two things. The first thing is, it's just super random. I looked up Keegan Murray on my phone, and the first thing that popped up was him winning a Karl Malone Award in 2022, which is like the most wild thing to me. But but it's just like I don't even know. I don't even want to know. But the second thing is that since we're talking about Sacramento's lineup, I'm trying to think. Could there possibility that they may be a little too small, at least front court, because I would assume it would be Keegan playing the 3 or 4 man, and then you have Sabonis playing in the middle.
So I think it is a little bit small, but I think their front court evens out as big because I think it's going to be Harrison Barnes, Keegan, Sabonis, which is a pretty big 3. Like they're all 6'8" or taller in that situation. But yeah, they're going to have troubles against like teams that have true 7-footers. They'll probably have issues with. A lot of teams do. But I think a lot of the reason they drafted Keegan in the first place over Jaden Ivey, who, by the way, looked great in Summer League too, we can talk about him next, was because they already had De'Aaron Fox. But not only that, Keegan Murray is the prototype of a big that can fit with Sabonis, which is kind of a hard thing to get. So I understand that's the reason. So I think it'll be him at the 4 and Sabonis at the 5. I mean, I guess I don't know what Mike Brown's old school defensive coach. He likes size. Maybe he goes Sabonis with Rashawn Holmes. That sounds nasty to me, but we'll see. We'll see what they do. For me, day one starting lineup: De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray, with Domantas Sabonis at center. You can swap Monk with Herter, but I think I'd save Herter for the second unit. How do you feel about that, Trey?
I like it. My only concern is, with that type of lineup is Sabonis is just dog shit on defense, especially, when he's matched up against bigger guys and especially on the perimeter. So I don't have a problem with it on offense because I mean we know the versatility of Sabonis on the offensive end, but defensively is like where I have the issues.
I just don't know what solutions you have. I mean, are you starting Sabonis with Rashawn Holmes? As much as it fixes as much as it might fix your issue on defense, it more than worsens the issue on offense.
That is true. So it's interesting, man. It is interesting because it definitely benefits offensive end. And I'll be real, Keegan did show some great flashes on the defensive end as well throughout the summer league. So maybe I guess you can see the offense can overpower the defensive end with that type of lineup.
Yeah, I don't know, man. They're not going to be contenders regardless. So we'll see if they're better than the Trailblazers. You know what I mean? Who are also just playing offense with not a lot of plans for defense. Anyway, that's enough about Keegan Murray. Let's move on. Do you want to do Ivy next, or do you have someone in mind?
let's save Ivy for another for the next topic. I want to talk about this guy because
Sure.
me and you
Please.
we have been super high on this guy. I'm sure you know. I'm sure you know where I'm going with it. This guy was under the radar in college. I wouldn't say he was underrated, but he was definitely under the radar. I don't think people really paid a lot of attention to him because he did go to a mid major. He wasn't at like a top school like Duke or North Carolina, whoever. Kenneth Lofton Jr. Memphis Grizzlies. Oh my goodness! In his first, I think it was his first summer league game. He went up against Chet Holmgren, and he really took it at him. I can't remember his exact stat line, but people are calling him a baby Zach Randolph. I can kind of see that.
Yeah.
I kind of see another similarity, but it doesn't come to mind at the moment. But he has a lot of skill set. Obviously, the weight may be an issue going further in his career. And with Memphis being so deep, I'm not sure if he'll really get the minutes or get the playing time that that a lot of people may want from him. Like we'll definitely probably see a lot of G League time with him. But this guy, Kenneth Lofton Jr., is the real deal. He has a lot of upside. He has a lot of great potential, a lot of optimism in this game. He could pass, he could score. He shot the three ball pretty well in the summer league, and I did not expect that, honestly. Not saying that not saying that it's the greatest thing, but him showing that ability to step outside and knock down perimeter shots, like that surprised me. The interesting thing about the summer league is that a lot of these guys are really showing a lot of skill set that I didn't see of them in college. So it's like even Chet to a degree as well. But with Kenneth Lofton, he had a great showing in summer league. Honestly, like I said, I mean, he probably won't get the playing time this upcoming season with Memphis, but it was great to see a guy like that, who has been under the radar, who has been noticed by many in college, but not a lot. Yeah. So for him to be able to have a great showing in the summer league, honestly, that was big for him. And Kenneth, please answer my DM, bro. I texted you about like 4 or 5 days ago. I haven't gotten a response, bro. This is a public announcement. Everybody who's tuning in, please tag Kenneth Lofton Jr. and tell him, man, come on to Hoop Truthers, man. Come on to Hoop Truthers.
Yeah, it's a player, baby. They're always busy. If he reaches out, that'd be sick. I can't find summer league stats anywhere filled out, but in their last game, he drops 27 and 12. Like you said, he was flashing a little bit of the three ball, and not just catch and shoot, some pull-up stuff. He was getting a little nasty when he was playing Chet. I think he took it a little bit personal. He's got a lot of skill. Honestly, he kind of reminds me, obviously not like the playmaking portion, but kind of like a big Kyle Lowry.
I mind that. I was thinking Kyle Lowry or Kyle Anderson to a degree.
Yeah, Kyle Anderson, Boris Diaw type of game.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a place for him in the NBA, especially on the Memphis Grizzlies that have a lot of funky players. I think they're very happy to try it out. I don't know if him and Xavier Tillman coexist in the same front court. They've got time to figure it out. But Kenneth Lofton Jr., man, a lot of fun. Definitely one of the more unique players in summer league, and another one, just another find by the Memphis Grizzlies, who had several guys like Jake LaRavia and David Roddy just showing flashes of really good stuff. Memphis looking primed for another draft class that just gives them more assets, but just players. It's just incredible what they're doing there. I would do a lot of things for a little bit of that with the Bucks scouting department. Although, speaking of the Milwaukee Bucks scouting department, Dre, can we talk about MarJon for a little bit?
Let's do it.
My boy MarJon is playing well out here in Summer League. It has completed, but I was watching every game that MarJon was in. I've gone back. It is on League Pass after a couple of hours, if you check it out. MarJon's defense is there. It's already there. I think he's going to defend at a high level in the NBA almost immediately. You guys heard it in the pre-draft workouts. He wants to be Mikal Bridges. He wants to be Herb Jones. I think he's going to be that almost immediately. The shot looks there too. The form is solid. It's not the prettiest shooting stroke I've ever seen, but he's hitting about 40-50% of his threes in Summer League. A lot of them catch and shoot. Some of them pull-ups. Pull-ups are really slow. I think he needs to speed up that process, but he just looks like a dog out there, man. Dre, did you get a chance to see MarJon at all during Summer League?
I watched a game and a half of him. I'm not going to say that I watched a whole lot
That's a good amount.
Marjan, but honestly, I mean, in the few games, I mean, I would definitely have to agree. You know, he's definitely showing a lot of flash, especially on the offensive end. Honestly, I can see him getting some rotation minutes. I could definitely see him getting some rotation minutes with this Milwaukee team. I'll have to look at the roster, you know, and see how they could orchestrate that, how Coach Bell would orchestrate that. But if we can get some second unit time and provide a spark on that end, like that would be great for them.
Honestly, we haven't covered this on the pod yet, I don't think, but the report of Chris Middleton coming out getting surgery on his left wrist, and the report says hopes to be ready right around or after the start of the season. If that report holds up, you could see Marjan in the starting lineup as soon as like the second or third week, depending on what they need. You know,
right?
We saw this when Chris Middleton went down.
But does he start right away over a guy like Pat Connaughton, who may be inserted into that starting lineup?
Not necessarily. It's only going to depend on fit. I mean, there's 2 slots to fill there. I wouldn't say the starting shooting guard spot just belongs to Grayson Allen by any means, even though it did for a large portion of last season. I imagine if Chris Middleton is out, they'll go big with Bobby Portis like they did for the playoff series against the Bulls. Bobby knows that when people are hurt, he gets the starting position. That's what he does. At that point, there's a shooting guard. Do you want shooting with Grayson? You want defense with Wes? Or do you want defense and athleticism with Marjan? I think after a few games, they might decide on Marjan. But regardless, if Middleton is injured, he's going to get rotation minutes immediately. And I think Bucks fans would be supremely depressed and disappointed if he didn't, because I think he's ready to contribute. I think he's going to be better than Dante DiVincenzo is now in year 1 if he gets the run.
I can agree with that. Honestly, you know, just thinking about it, man, just go ahead and start it right away, man. I mean, you know, the team needs some offense. We saw it last season in the playoffs against Boston, where Giannis was really a one-man show, and there was really no second option. So this is exactly what Milwaukee would need, especially depending on how long Chris out for the at the start of the season. At the start of the season, so it could definitely be a big lift for them.
We need to see if the shot is going to translate to the big leagues, because it certainly doesn't always. But it looks pretty solid. I think the catch and shoot corner shot, like the PJ Tucker shot, I think he can make that in the NBA pretty easily. I'd bet some money on that. Above the break stuff,
that in the bit, like if he could display his ability to score around the mid range as well, I think that'd be great too.
I think he's got some rim pressure. I don't know about the mid game, but I think he knows how to get downhill to the rack, and he's got some good finishing. He's got the length for a dunk. You know, he's 6'7", closer to 6'7" than he is 6'6", 7-foot wingspan. Dude's an athlete. I'm very excited for him. AJ Green, two-way player that they picked up after going like 4 for 4 in a 2-minute stretch in his first game, shot like pretty mildly from the field after that. A lot of people were clamoring for him to be the guy after those few minutes, but he's okay. We'll take a look. Those are my takeaways there. There's a few more guys I could talk about, but this isn't a Bucks pod. Trey, another guy that you want to bring up. I know you got your notes out. Who you want to talk about? I got my guy in.
Should we bring up some of the lottery guys? You know, do we want to go there?
Yeah. Why not?
I know that Jaden Ivey only played like a handful of games, but in those few games that they played, you know, he definitely played exceptional. I think he had a 20-point game in one of the games, honestly. But I'll be real, man. Like, you know, just watching Jaden really has me optimistic about Detroit, man. Like, I don't know if they make the playoffs this year, but the following year, Cade. I think Killian Hayes is gone. I think Killian Hayes is definitely gone.
I don't know if he's gone, but he's not. In my opinion, he's not part of like the vision right now.
Exactly. So that's my thing. Like, even if you do keep him, he'll probably be your second unit point guard, which is not bad, honestly.
Sure.
So you got Cade, you got Jaden Ivey, Sadiq Bey, Beef Stew, Jalen. Oh my God, Jalen. Oh, dude, he played phenomenal. He played phenomenal as well. Oh my goodness, he played phenomenal as well. Like, you know, really showing his ability to have a lot of rim pressure, being able to protect the basket, being able to play in the pick and roll as well. You know, both in college and in the summer league as well. Detroit's gonna be nasty, man. Detroit is going to be nasty. I think they're really prepared for the future. I'm really happy with you know, how they've been able to really straight this roster over the last few years.
Yeah.
The Knicks might regret this one with Jalen Duren. They might regret this one. I know they still got Mitch. I know they still got Mitch, but Jalen Duren is going to be, in my opinion, I'm not going to say he's going to have like an all-star caliber career, but he's going to have a good career to say the least.
Here's my thing with Jalen Duren. I didn't like the Knicks trading that pick because I liked other players for them. Like Jalen Williams would have been awesome for the Knicks.
That's not bad.
Like that. But center, I really didn't care about. Mitch is not as good as Jalen Duren's going to be. They traded Nerlens Noel. They picked up Isaiah Hartenstein, though, who I really do like at center.
He's a good player.
He's not as good as Jalen Duren. I get it. But Duren, I keep saying Duren. It's Duren. But he's going to look so good in Detroit, but his playmakers in Detroit are going to be top notch as well. Imagine Duren trying to just post up 10 times a game in New York because he's got, guys that can't passing him the ball. Jalen Brunson and RJ Barrett are your best passers on the team. I think it wouldn't be as seamless as a fit, and it wouldn't look as good. And then the Knicks would get clowned for something else, like not taking Jalen Williams. You know what I mean? I think it was the perfect pick for Detroit, and I'm not mad at the Knicks not taking him. That being said, you're right. The Pistons are prime. Troy Weaver, you see a lot of Troy Stan accounts on Twitter, and it's well-deserved right now. Last year, number one pick, you can't fuck that up, especially in that draft. You could take a number of those guys number one and just be fine,
That's
you could take
true.
Scotty, Mobley, even Jalen Green, and people are like, yeah, you took the number one guy. You can't fuck that up, but still nailed the draft with Sadiq Bey and Isaiah Stewart later in that draft. Just great. Sorry, I was trying to think of a better adjective, but a haul from Troy Weaver in year one. Year two, he can't win the lottery again, of course, but he makes sure he leaves with his guys. At number 5, Jaden Ivey falls to his lap, the best guard in the class and possibly a top 3 player in the class to pair with the number 1 guy in Cade Cunningham. And then you get your center. A lot of people were saying in this draft, if you're looking for a generational superstar, you probably won't find one, but it is a great draft for high-level role players to like borderline all-stars. And something that you and I were saying leading up to the draft was if you can leave with 2 top 15, 2 top 10 prospects in this draft, you are doing great, especially if you already have that number 1 guy. Troy Weaver decided to do that, and they have a core 4 of Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Sadiq Bey, who gets underrated in all of this, but Sadiq Bey is a monster. He's a perfect role player for this team, especially a team that's going to have a lot of playmaking, but not necessarily 3-level scoring, what Sadiq Bey projects to potentially be, and Jalen Duren, who's, you think Duren's not going to get mentorship from Ben Wallace while he's there? Of course he is.
Oh my goodness.
Now, the rumors out of camp are that they're going to start Beef Stew Isaiah Stewart at the 4 next to Duren. I really don't know about that.
I am not for that, to be honest.
They say that Stu is shooting the 3 well, and I guess he was trying it out in Summer League. I do not see it. And I don't know if there's a solution on the current roster. Perfect guy would have been Jeremy Grant, who obviously they traded for a late pick and some other things. And he probably wanted to go to a team that was going to contend in the playoffs. Honestly, they're not going to be that good. But anyways, that he wanted to do, and they're going to have to pay him and all that stuff. But off the bench, Kelly Olynyk is a better shooting big. I actually think that fits better than Stu, but I don't love that either. And I don't know if they don't have many more wings off of the bench beyond who they're starting in Sadiq and Cade, right? I can take a look at their roster real quick.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. But I don't know about Beef Stew and Duren in the starting lineup together. Because I don't know. It's like, Stu is probably he's probably working on the shot, but I don't really see him being like that effective from 3. If that makes sense.
No, I agree with you.
Like, do you see around like 35, 36% from 3? I don't. Honestly.
I don't see that. Let me pull this up. I got one thing. Let's see. Maybe his free throw stats are good. His free throw percentage is like 70%. I don't really see it. He was taking 0.6 a game last year, and he made 32% of them on like nothing volume. So I really don't see it. My thing with that, though, is I understand why they're trying it because they traded for Alec Burks, who's going to get a lot of run for this team and some
That's
good
true.
run for that team, and Nerlens Noel. So if Stu doesn't fit with Duran in the lineup, in the starting lineup, is he going to fit with Noel in the backup?
No. Please don't. Please don't. Dwayne
yeah.
Casey, you better know better. Please.
Yeah.
Please.
So, I mean, they're going to try it. I don't think they're necessarily trying to win or make the playoffs this year. They're not trying to tank for a top pick, but if they could get like another top 15 pick that ends up being a power forward, because that's all they need right now is a power forward. Honestly, another guy that would be perfect right now that obviously they didn't get because he was picked before them would be Keegan Murray. Keegan would be the perfect fourth player or fifth puzzle piece in the starting lineup. That's enough Detroit, I think, right? What do you think? What do you project them as? I'm going to go with 10th seed, last spot of the play-in right now.
I can see that. I can definitely see that. This year is going to be more of an experiment as far as like how to really utilize these guys. Who's going to be effective in which area of the game. So definitely no playoff for me, at least as far as Detroit this year. But next year, you definitely got to look out for them. I think next year they could be at least top 6 in the East, and that's really bold.
Next year?
Yeah, next year, 2023, 2024.
Oh, like the season. Okay, so
yeah. Like
okay.
This upcoming season, I don't really have any expectations for them. Like maybe be a playing team, which would be cool, but the very next season.
A top 6 or a top 4?
I'm gonna go safe and say top 6. I don't want to go top 4 yet. But
I think top 6, to be honest, I don't think that's very hot. Like I would agree with you on that. I would bet on that, I think.
Right. Top 4 might be a little too, I don't know.
If they get a 4 and they make that starting lineup, I mean, even if they don't even get like a star, like I put in Keegan Murray and Jeremy Grant, if they just get like a Harrison Barnes level guy to play that 4, that'd be perfect for what they have right now. We'll see. Maybe they get, what about like Kuzma? Kuzma would be fun there.
That would be nice. That would be really fun to watch.
Easily. They could trade for
him. They probably could.
Yeah.
They probably could, honestly. Like, who do you trade for a guy like Kuz?
I think Kuz only has 1 year on his contract anyway, so they'll probably just try and get him in free agency. But right now, if you want to trade for him, it would have to be a guard like Killian Hayes, a young guard that they can try and develop. Killian Hayes and something to make the money work. I guess Alec Burks to give them another wing. And then attach a first to that. That might be overpaying for Kuzma, but I'm okay overpaying if I have as much resources as the Pistons do.
I mean, his value's up now. Considering after this previous year against with the Wizards. So
I think his value's up, but I also think because it's up, he's going to get paid in a year, and Washington's trying to cash in on the trade value now as opposed to paying him. So, anyways, we're gonna do the all summer league first team, which is going, and then we'll talk about the only other rookie that's on there and their team real quick. But just to do it, we talked about Keegan Murray, obviously. We talked about the Bucks Summer League, but I didn't cover that Sandro Mamukelashvili was very close to getting the MVP, in my opinion. Dude looked like a monster. He might get rotation minutes this year. He was doing some point forward shit that I really like to see, but not going to talk too much about it. Quentin Grimes for the Knicks, who's going to be their starting shooting guard if they don't trade for Donovan Mitchell. I got a lot of I'm on the Quentin Grimes train. Dre, are you?
The Grimes train? Oh yeah, 100%. And it's funny because I mean, actually, no, I'll wait till we get to the Donovan topic to really discuss it.
The defense, I see it. The shooting, I see it. I don't think he's a playmaker, but that's why he's their starting shooting guard. I think Quentin Grimes should have gotten a lot more playing time last year, and I think he's going to be the starting shooting guard this year if Thibs isn't Thibs, which obviously he is. And then your guy, we can talk about him for just a moment. Some might have thought he would have gotten Summer League MVP, but Cam Thomas on first team all Summer League. How'd you feel? I mean, you saw him put in he's damn near 30, man.
I like that, man. It's so crazy, man. With Brooklyn, it's like obviously, I think it's pretty much for that KD and Kyrie will end up staying with that team. But let's say, for instance, that they were to get traded. Well, I mean, there's still a chance that they can, but I'm not really banking on that at this point. But let's say, for instance,
talk about it now while we're talking about Cam Thomas. Let's talk about it.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about it. But I just want to get this point off now. Like, if those guys were to have left, man, like I think Cam would have gotten a really big opportunity. to really display a skill set. You know, if those two were have to have left already or to be gone by the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it would be really fun to see the Cam and Nick Claxton experiment for like 30 minutes a game. It would be a lot nicer if they had their own first round pick and they could just tank this year. And I'd love to see Cam and Nick Claxton pick and roll for like 20 wins. You know what I mean? Now, obviously, they can't afford to do that, or else they give the pick up to Houston, which, by the way, Houston's looking great. We're going to talk about them next. But Brooklyn, let's talk about it really quickly. Cam Thomas looks great. KD, there's nothing out there right now. There's no movement whatsoever. And it's mainly because no one out there can match the price of what they're trying to, what they want to get. And the price is either, from what I've seen and what I'm figuring, this is an estimate, it's either picks close to double digits, if not double digits, and 1 to 2 players that are considered like all-star caliber or blue chip prospects. We're talking the Brandon Ingrams of the world. We're talking I didn't have another example. Just move on. But you know what we're talking about.
Yeah,
either that or one of those all-star guys that you can get. And I don't think anyone's got the pick package right now. The only one that can is Phoenix, and they have been severely dampered by the DeAndre Ayton stuff. We're not going to talk about that now. We'll talk about the Ayton stuff later, so we'll save Phoenix for them. But for Brooklyn, there's just not a package out there. The one player that I could see that's out there that they would want that we're not going to talk about right now is Mitchell, but it would have to be at least a 3-team deal, probably more, because KD's not going to Utah on that fucking deal. But I could see KD getting like a ton of picks, those being routed, some of them routed to Utah, and then Donovan Mitchell landing in Brooklyn as their new guy, the franchise player. I don't know if him and Cam Thomas fit in a backcourt, specifically defensively, because they don't, but it's something. In terms of Kyrie, if a KD's deal's not happening, a Kyrie deal's probably not happening either.
I agree.
Any thoughts on the KD Kyrie saga as we close out this part of the Brooklyn Nets saga? First team All Summer League.
I guess you could say I'm not really surprised, honestly, because, I get it. Kevin Durant is Kevin Durant at the end of the day. We get that, two-time champion, one of the best scorers in the league today. But is it really a risk giving up a lot of the young guys, for a guy like KD? Like, for instance, let's say, there was a trade, because I think that there was a rumor, early in the KD trade request saga to Indiana. Are you giving up your young court guys for a guy like Kevin Durant, who's about 34 years old, injury history? It could make you elevate as a contender. You can explore that experiment of a Halliburton, Kevin Durant, and then a possibly DeAndre Ayton if that were to happen. Sure. But I don't really think that really elevates the team. I wouldn't see that team being better than a team like Toronto, in my opinion.
Sure, yeah, and I think the whole point was that KD was never going to agree to go to a place that wouldn't have a contending roster after the trade. So it had to be a team that had both a contending roster and enough pieces to trade to not destroy that roster. Phoenix was technically that team, but they wanted more. They wanted Devin.
They wanted Booker,
which they weren't going to get. The one team that's here that's the wild card, and I never doubt Mazai, is Toronto. They're not going to give up Scottie. And Brooklyn wants Scottie. Honestly, at this point, I know I'll get slandered for this, but if KD truly wants out, I'd do KD Scottie straight up. Because Scottie's coming off his first year. He's still got his rookie contract, 3 more years of that as a rookie of the year. And then you're guaranteed to just sign him to a max extension as a restricted free agent, if not sooner than that. You're trading 4 years of KD for 8 years of Scottie Barnes. This version, this Scottie Barnes, we believe can be, how high are you on Scottie Barnes as a prospect?
Definitely all-star caliber, possibly MVP type. I'm not 100% sure. It's up in the air, but
in that deal, you have to figure out something for Ben Simmons because they cannot coexist. But
obviously,
that's not what the deal would be. It would be like Scottie and a pick, or Scottie and a couple more contracts to match, like Gary Trent Jr.
That's what I was thinking.
And a backup or something like that. But I would value-wise, I understand why Toronto's not giving up Scottie, because it is 8 years of Scottie Barnes. But man, I would do it. Starting a team over with Scotty, you can do a lot with that. Scotty with Claxton and Cam Thomas, it's a fun team. It's a fun team. It's not going to be a contender, but it's fun for now.
That makes a lot of sense though. But I mean, but that's the thing though, like that I kind of alluded to in the beginning is like, are you giving up your young guys for a guy like Kevin Durant, who is a superstar? You know, KD is KD at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But you know, you gotta look at the due diligence. You know, he's 34 years old. You know, take away the Achilles tear. You know, he's had a lot of other lingering injuries. And then on top of that, like, even though I wouldn't hold him to it, but a lot of people look at that Boston series, which you got to give credit to the Celtics, who played phenomenal defense against him. They're looking at, like, a lot of people will look at that as like, oh my God, like, you know, this guy, can he really deliver? Like, can he really lead a team? I'm not holding that against KD. You got to give credit to the Celtics for that, but a lot of people will look at that. So it's like Phoenix is a no, definitely at this point. Toronto is probably going to be a no. I can't think of any other teams that were trying to trade for them. I know the Lakers were. I know there was rumors that the Lakers were trying to trade for both of those guys, KD and Kyrie.
It's not gonna happen.
I don't see that happening.
Unless AD is involved, which AD is not going to be involved.
That's the thing. Like that. Like that's just like super impossible. Like, Miami was up there in the air as well.
They can't. They can't trade Bam though, and they don't have a package without him. Like, you're not taking Tyler Hero and picks for Kevin Durant. No. You're just not. The Pelicans weren't interested. They weren't even willing to give up just Brandon Ingram and picks per reports, and I think that's pretty much it. I saw a rumor from Sam Amico, by the way. Sam Amick is the good reporter. Sam Amico is the bad reporter. It's a bit from the Ball podcast. Go check it out. Sam Amico, the guy who doesn't report good stuff, said that Washington is going to make like a big push for Kevin Durant. I fucking doubt it, but we'll see. I doubt it, but we'll see. The one thing that I could see that hasn't been talked about at all, so I can only assume they don't have much interest, is a Portland trade. Because they have Shaedon Sharpe, who's this mystery potential, basketball savant. You can trade,
probably Jeremy Grant.
Well, no, you try and keep Jeremy in that. I think it doesn't work anymore because you've already traded and you've already signed Anthony and Yusuf Nurkic. I think the idea would be sign and trade them because it would be Shaedon, Anthony, Nurkic, and something, and you would have Dame, Jeremy Grant, and KD as your big three. But I don't think it works anymore because of those. So disregard what I just said. But like I said a lot in that sentence.
To be fair, I'm trying to see about a Washington trade because I wouldn't say it would be a bad deal. Like, so, like, if that were okay, let's speak hypothetical. Like, if that were to happen, what's that?
I'll pull up the trade machine right now.
Yeah, so I'm assuming Kuz will probably be a part of that.
Yes, absolutely.
Will we agree with that? Kuz, would you trade a guy like Donny?
So let's see. It's Kuz to the Nets. That's 13. You got to get 30 more million on here. So it almost has to be Kristaps too.
I forgot about Kristaps. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's got to be Kristaps. And that gets you there. You can trade Kristaps, Kuzma, and then you do have to trade one of your young guys minimum. Let's just say it's Donny, right? Let's just say it's Donny. Mm-hmm. And then you've got 3 guys, probably a second guy. So you choose one, okay? Choose one of these 2 guys, Rui or Corey Kispert.
I'll say Corey.
Okay. Corey there. And then the picks. So they don't have their own 2023. That means they can't trade their 2020, but you can trade your 2025 to the Nets. You can trade your 2027 to the Nets, and you can trade your 2029 to the Nets. That's pretty much all you're gonna fucking get in this trade, unless you're getting like Johnny Davis too, which I don't think the Wizards want to do in that. Let's see if that works. It works. Is this enough for Kevin Durant, right? Kristaps Porzingis, Kyle Kuzma, Deni Avdija, Corey Kispert, and 3 unprotected first picks. Probably not. That's the Utah Jazz deal for Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, I would probably say the Nets would probably. Sean Marks would probably say no.
So in that deal, you got to include both Rui and Johnny Davis to make them even think about it. And then at that point, your team is basically Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Monte Morris, Will Barton, and Daniel Gafford. That's pretty solid, but you're probably not getting out of the East with that roster.
No, not even a chance.
Unless you get like Ben Simmons back in that deal, in which case you have to send out $35 more million, which you just don't have on the books. So I don't think the Wizards trade is going to work.
It's looking spooky for Kevin Durant, man.
I think he's going to play. I think he's just going to play.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely looking back in Brooklyn.
Yeah. There's a report from Chris Haynes. Let's just do this now while we're doing the big market teams. If you guys care about the big market teams, this is the big market time. Chris Haynes, 4 hours ago, Los Angeles Lakers big three of LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook huddled for a phone conversation to confirm their commitment to each other through the uncertainty, league sources told at Yahoo Sports. Let's just go through the events of the week while we're doing this. Russell Westbrook fired his agent of 14 years, and the reports are because he wants to leave the Lakers, and his agent didn't think that was a good idea. Dre, are you convinced that this conversation between LeBron, Anthony, and Russell have solved everything?
I don't know, man. To be real, man. I mean, it's kind of an unfortunate thing because I was also reading those reports as well, and I'll be real. I was kind of siding with Russ's agent, but yeah, I mean, honestly, especially with reports today, it does seem like Russ no longer wants to be a Laker. So
right.
It's just going to be up in the air as far as what's next in that situation.
Yeah, I don't know where he goes from here. Maybe the Charlotte thing is still on the table. I have no idea, but I don't really want to talk about them anymore. If there's more news or any trades on the Lakers and Nets, you'll hear it from us. But until then, go listen to like a podcast about the Lakers or the Nets. There's plenty of them, I promise you.
I'm sure the Low Post posted something about it.
They really do. Yeah, Low Post has been doing just the big names lately, but we do love you. We love you.
Definitely.
Summer League, we're about 40 minutes in, Trey. Let's talk about a couple more guys, and then we can talk about the Ayton stuff and the Donovan Mitchell stuff, and we'll get the fuck out of here.
Let's talk about my boy James Wiseman, man, because this has gotten me really excited. It was reported that it was first reported that he wouldn't play in the Summer League, if I'm not mistaken. It was going to be him and Moses Moody not playing in the Summer League. But then he comes back, he has a game against Boston. He has a game against San Antonio. And let me just say this, I guess maybe having that year off really rejuvenates the player James Wiseman. He showed his ability to attack the basket. He's even showing a lot of ball handling ability and a lot of passing ability. So I get it. It's Summer League. Let's not get too caught up.
Yeah.
But, just him being out there on the floor and really showing some great production really allows, Warriors fans like myself to really be optimistic, not only on this upcoming season, but the future, because obviously the projected future once Steph, Clay, and Dre are, obviously, in the later years, is going to be Moses Moody, Kuminga, and James Wiseman. Yep. You got to keep that core together, hope for the future, and just watching Wiseman in a few games that he played, really shows, that this team has a really bright future ahead.
You're including Poole in that young.
Oh yes, right? Sorry, yes, Jordan Poole. Yes,
he's just he's a little bit older than those guys, so I get why you got mixed up. I didn't watch much of the Warriors in Summer League. The clips that I saw were more Moody based because Moody went the fuck off in Summer League, by the way, if you guys weren't paying attention. A lot of the Twitter feed was coming at Wiseman. A lot of people said that despite the stats, they looked terrible. So I'm going to see it in the season because they don't have a backup center. They're going to use Wiseman a lot this year. Bielitsa's gone. They're going to use him a lot. Moody and Kuminga are both getting minutes. GP2 is gone. Dante is in. It's going to be an interesting year for the defending champs who have – I mean, the second unit is almost entirely different.
I agree.
Moody wasn't getting minutes last year. Kuminga didn't get minutes until later in the year. Wiseman didn't play at all. Dante wasn't on the team. And is there a fourth guy? Is there a fifth bench guy? That's the only four I'm thinking of.
Only other one that I could think of that might possibly get some time is Mac McClung shows some decent shows in the summer league, but
is he on a two-way?
I believe so, but I don't see him getting it. I don't see him getting any rotation time. Unfortunately, he's a good player, but I just don't see it happening.
Not with the Warriors, I don't. No. Well, no, Mac McClung, is he on the? Yeah,
he's on the Warriors. Yeah.
One rumor from one day ago. Highly unlikely Mac McClung makes the team. However, that means it's very likely that someone else picks him up that intends to play him.
That's true.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be cool. I could even see the Lakers picking him up.
He was with the Lakers a year ago, I believe.
Yeah, for a hot second. They could use a little bit more shooting now. Use a little bit more shooting now. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the other high picks real quick. Chet, Paolo, Jabari. What were your thoughts on all three?
Chet is super talented, honestly. And it's like, it's just so crazy though how like when you watch these guys in college, I mean, we know what they are capable of displaying on the court, but I don't know, it's like, you watch college and it's like, a lot of these coaches would like, really hold these players back of really utilizing their true talent. So now they come to the summer league and they're able to put a lot of that talent on full display. And we saw that with Chet even in their first game of the summer league where, I think, like, you know what I'm saying? Like he was really able to produce at a high level, being able to really run the floor, being able to shoot, being able to pass, being able to attack the basket. We get it. I know a lot of people were concerned with the size. I think he weighs like 195 or so, which I mean, it's definitely some concerns to be, concerned about, but the skill set is there. And that's not something that you can doubt, honestly. It just shows that, him, actually, I'm gonna say this, him and Giddey together, it's like peanut butter and jelly, honestly. Like, I'm gonna just be honest, bro. It's phenomenal to watch, in my opinion. We all know what Giddey is made of, with his passing ability. Those two together, alongside I got like a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Dort, a few of those other guys. Obviously, in my opinion, I'm not too high on OKC this upcoming season, but there's a future there, in my opinion.
To be fair, Giddey does make PB&J with more players than anyone else in the league. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, that's just his gift as a passer. Not anyone else in the league. Don't take that as an overreaction, but a lot of dudes that, don't have chemistry with playmakers because they're not good have chemistry with Josh Giddey because he's Josh fucking Giddey. But Chet looked great out there. And you're not just adding Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to that group. You're adding a number one offensive option. I think we can say that with pretty much certainty. I would never say that Shai is a good enough player to be the number one team on a championship team. I don't think that's necessarily true, but I think he's good enough to be like the Kyrie of a team. You know what I mean?
I can see that.
Scoring the most points on a championship team, I can certainly see that from one Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't know if Chet's the guy that's going to bring it up there, but between Chet, Josh Giddey, Jalen Williams, by the way, with an E, they have both Y and E, but JDub has Jalen Williams. Bro, Jalen Williams is going to be fucking great immediately. I don't know about Ousmane Deng. He didn't look great in Summer League, but he is supposed to be one of the longest projects in the draft. Still think they should have gone Duren instead of Ousmane, but whatever. It's fine. Yeah, I'm not high on OKC either. They need another big man to pair with Chet, but they're going to be better this year. Maybe playing, but I don't really see it. Paolo is just, we saw him in college. I watched him in college. I don't watch college basketball very often, but I did see film of Paolo in college. And for some reason, I guess him being big against like scrawny college kids made him look even smaller than you'd think, because you don't realize he's big until he's big next to NBA athletes. Mm-hmm. When he was in Summer League, the dude is like playing against, Chet obviously, but he makes Jabari Smith look like a twig too. Just massive. That dude is a monstrous player. Going to come in fiending for that number one option. And the Magic are going to be a top 8 seed in the East.
That's a possibility. That is okay. I don't know about I'm gonna go safe and say 10. I think they could be a playing team.
I think 10 is safe. I think 8 is pretty close to safe. I mean, the front court is one of the best in the East. Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, Wendell Carter Jr. And you will all see this season, Dre, I know you know, but you will see the Wendell Carter Jr. that we saw last year that no one paid attention to.
The emergence.
And now next to Paolo Banchero is just going to be, just wait. I promise you'll see it. The backcourt is where I have some issues. I think for sure Cole Anthony is starting, and for sure Markelle Fultz is coming off the bench. I think they see Markelle as their sixth man. I really do, and I really don't think you start Cole and Markelle. I think.
What about Jalen Suggs? Does he see any starting time?
I think it's Suggs, but if they want to make the playoffs and they go veteran presence, you go 3-D with. They gave the bag to Gary Harris, so I could see him starting as their shooting guard. And honestly, it probably will be if they gave him the bag. 2 years, 26, man, really good money for Gary Harris. Happy for him. Starting lineup of Cole Anthony, Gary Harris, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, and Wendell Carter Jr. Baby, it's good shit.
Yo, that 3-4 man with Paolo and Franz.
Yeah,
that's gonna be oh my god! Because Franz had a good year this last year. Like, I don't know if a lot of people really paid attention because I know a lot of people don't really watch Orlando, but Franz has a lot of talent. He's definitely better than his brother. Let's go and get that out the way. But
if you believe that the top 3 was set, which some people disagree with, but if you agree that the top 3 of the Rookie of the Year voting was Scotty, Evan, and
Cade.
And you're trying to figure out like third, fourth was almost always Franz Wagner. You could have Jalen Green in there, but Franz Wagner was in there as well.
I think Franz had better year than Jalen, personally.
It was weird because Franz started off really hot and ended really cold, and Jalen started off really cold and ended really hot.
Back, so that's true.
The hype was coming at the complete different times for them. I think they're both going to have great years in general because both of their teams have improved, including the Rockets. Let's talk about them right now. Maybe the best draft in the class. I think I would probably go Detroit because they got 2 of those perfect picks, Jaden and Dern. But the Rockets nailed every pick they had. Obviously, you're going to, if it's third, you're going to go Jabari Smith. And I mean, listen, real quick, number 3 is obviously like you're always going to go Jabari Smith. But can you picture a backcourt of the future of Jalen Green and Jaden Ivey if they had gone Ivey on 3? I mean, that would have been monstrous. I would have loved it. But
that would have been great.
Obviously, you go Jabari Smith, who had a very good summer league. Defensively, he's there. Catch and shoot, he's there. Self-creation, is it ever going to happen? I don't know. But that's not necessarily where you drafted him. Jalen Green's your guy. Jabari Smith, big fan. I think he's going to do well. But then at 17, everyone on Twitter was like, oh, he should have been a lottery pick after he got drafted. I'm sure some people were saying it before. Tari Eason has been fucking Dre, just talk. I'm going to get too excited. Talk about Tari Eason, man. Tari
Eason, man. LSU was a great 6-man for that team. A lot of people kind of had him under the radar, but watching like the small package of LSU this past year, like, he makes a difference, or he made a difference, anytime he was inserted into the game, man. We definitely saw that on full display here in the summer league. Yeah. He has a lot of talent, just being able to attack the basket, even having some great defensive times as well. I would have to agree with you. Like, I think Houston is definitely up there as far as like some of the best draft picks in this draft this year. I mean, I know people would definitely go with Detroit, honestly, especially with the Jada Ivey pick, but Houston is definitely up there. And as far as Jabari, it was weird because, I was talking with a few guys about Jabari. There was definitely a lot of mixed emotions. He definitely played well, but a lot of people were concerned. A lot of people were concerned with his ball handling and his turnovers. The shot creation was, he had great shot creation during his time at Auburn, but, it was definitely like a little bit of air for him in the summer league. But I feel like that'll come, with a little more opportunity. I mentioned it before, with the trade of Christian Wood going to Dallas, I feel like it was just perfect to grab Jabari Smith Jr. with that 3rd overall pick. Yeah. So I'm definitely always going to be high on Jabari. In my opinion, throughout the entire college season, I wanted to go number 1. But obviously, fit does matter. And Paolo was definitely, in my opinion, the better fit for Orlando. But Jabari's going to be fine, honestly. And then, of course, you had Terry Eason. Even a guy like Tata Washington had some good showings with Houston as well. So definitely up there as far as like actually they're probably second in my opinion. Like as far as best draft picks.
Yeah, Ty Washington was a great pick too. They don't have a natural point guard on the roster, especially after John Wall went to Los Angeles. Big shouts to him. Oh, let's talk about my Clipper tickets in a second too. I want to talk about.
Okay, let's do it.
But Ty looked like a natural point guard. I wouldn't be surprised if they ever do entertain the possibility of trading KPJ. Ty would be a natural starting point guard to Jalen Green. No matter whether Kevin Porter Jr. is the starting point guard or Alperen Şengün is the center of the future, the Rockets came away with this draft and last year's draft knowing their top three, not necessarily top three, but who's going to be their starting shooting guard for like a decade in Jalen Green, who's going to be the starting power forward / center for a long time in Jabari Smith, and they're starting 3 or 4 in Tari Eason. Tari Eason is going to be a huge part of this draft for them and a huge part of that team. He's going to start in this league for that team for a long time. Obviously, things happen and players ask out and teams trade players when they shouldn't, but he's going to be a starter in this league for a long time, starting in year 1 with the Houston Rockets. I'm really excited about them. I don't think they had any seconds, did they? Yeah, the Pistons had a great draft. The Thunder had a great draft with Holmgren, Jalen Williams. We'll see about Usman. I think those are the top 3. I don't think anyone else had. Oh, the Grizzlies, of course. I mean, the Grizzlies have the draft every year, but that's how we do. Okay, 1 or 2 guys that we didn't talk about, but you want to shout out. We won't talk about them any further, but shout out from Summer League that balled out that you want to shout out.
Jaden Hardy. You got to go Jaden Hardy. Oh, my God. 28 points in his first game against Chicago, I want to say. Shout out to my guy Kivo, man, because Kivo was on here a few times in the last month or so. Me and him, we were definitely high on my Jaden Hardy. I did not expect him to drop that low. I thought it was going to be like a late first rounder, but he ended up dropping to the mid 30s.
I thought he would go before Marjan in terms of G League Ignite teammates.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that was a lot of people, even like myself, were very upset with that. But looking at the situation, I would love the possibility of a Luka Jaden Hardy backcourt. I don't know if it'll happen immediately, because he is still young. But then again, he does have that professional basketball experience playing with the Ignite. But that would be something to really experiment if you're Jason Kidd.
I like that too. I think they see that too. Like I think they picture it a little bit in terms of like him being a Brunson replacement. Right now, it's going to be Dinwiddie, and I understand why. It's just very simple.
Either Dinwiddie or THJ.
I think THJ is going to be part of the plan. I wouldn't be surprised if they start together. You put Luka at the 3 or the 4. Not that he guards that position, but he's just big enough where he can be at that position offensively. One guy, let's see. I'm taking a look at people that I wanted to shout out, and I'm not really seeing anyone that I saw. I mean, I've said Jalen Williams like 10 times. If you are paying attention, go pay attention to Jalen Williams and Tari Eason. Those are the guys that I want to talk about over and over and over again, and we will this season when we have our rookie reports. Guys that we didn't get to see too much out of that we want to see more out of. First, I want to say EJ Liddell, one of the guys I wanted the Bucks to draft by a second rounder, pick him in their ethical Grant Williams, I called him. PJ Tucker, great pick by the New Orleans Pelicans at 41. Tore his ACL in his first or second summer league game. Just is not going to, and like the Pelicans are going to be fine. They have a glut of players. Honestly, they could have used some condensation. Condensation? That's so not the correct word, but I can't think of the word that it's going to be. It doesn't really matter. At some point, they were going to need to limit the roster. It sucks for him. 1 year off of his development. Hopefully, he gets to recover. ACLs are nothing these days. It just sucks for it to happen in a year of development for him. Sucks for EJ. Let's also talk. Shaden Sharp got injured in his first Summer League game. Hasn't played then, and he hasn't played in several years, man. We really need to see what Shaden Sharp looks like. The next time we're going to see him.
That sucks for him because, he never played at Kentucky. And then, of course, in his first ever Summer League game, unfortunately gets injured. Shout out to Shaden Sharp, though, man. I don't know, what's next for him, but I hope it's good. I really do.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we see him. It's going to be weird if the next time we see Shaden Sharp is just in the NBA season with nothing. You know what I mean? And also Dyson Daniels, who also dealt with another Pelican that dealt with some injuries. The first G League Ignite teammate off the board, by the way. That's
Hey,
3 in the top. Oh, yeah.
I don't care. Dyson's going to be big for this New Orleans team.
He is,
He's
man.
going to be big for this team, man. I love Dyson, man. Like, maybe this is just me being biased, but I really do love Dyson.
Yeah. I'm high on all the G League Ignite this year, but I think you and I are both high on the G League Ignite program in general. Last year's crop was great with Kuminga and Jalen Green both excelling. Dacian Nix is on the Rockets now, and I think Isaiah Todd landed with the team as well. I think the Spurs got Isaiah Todd. This year they got 3 guys in the top 35 because Jaden falls the second round. All of them project to be good players. I really like what the G League Ignite program is doing. Our first episode was covering the G League Ignite. But Dyson Daniels is going to be him. I'm still pissed that the Blazers didn't take him. I think he's a perfect fit for that roster. I think that you can start him. You can bring him off the bench. I think he's tall GP2 for you with playmaking tops, and you just paid a lot of money to bring over Gary Payton II. And I like Shaedon Sharpe, and I understand the motivation. If Dame leaves and he needs to be this guy, or you send him to a team for a trade because he has all this mystery, maybe he has so much trade value, but I don't get it for now or next year or the year after that. If you're trading Dame, cool, but all indications are that you're not. And Dyson can help you now and in the future. He's like 19, and he's already defensively at an NBA level. His passing could be too. The guys that come out, I don't know.
Don't even get me started on Dame, dog. I don't even want to.
Let's not. Let's move on. Let's move on. All right, that's it for the summer league. Now, we'll be doing rookie reports all year when it happens. We're past an hour. I thought this was going to be a short episode. Let's do Ayton real quick. Here's what happened with Ayton. Late last week, the Indiana Pacers signed DeAndre Ayton to an offer sheet, except they don't. It's leaked by Woj that they will sign him, but they give it a little bit of time for the Suns to negotiate a sign and trade. The Suns clearly have no interest. The Indiana Pacers signed him to a max contract, paying him, I believe, an average of $32.5 million a year. Big shouts out to Ayton for getting the bag, the Bahamian bag. And the Suns matched like 10 minutes later. So the Suns are really doing a bad job of making DeAndre Ayton feel valued. I'll say that much. And it basically kills any Kevin Durant trade that they had for him, because now it could have been DeAndre Ayton, a sign-in trade with a couple of things and a bunch of fucking picks, and maybe hold on to Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges or one of them. But without DeAndre Ayton, because he can no longer be traded for 6 months, and even after that 6 months, he cannot be traded without his consent for a full year, because if you match a contract, he can decline trades. You have to give up both Mikal and Cam and all your picks in that deal. It's a rough look for the Suns. Dre, one thought on DeAndre Ayton, and we'll move on to Mitchell.
This definitely does not make these really look that good, honestly. Like, to me, like, I get it. Like, they were – well, first of all, last year they didn't want to pay him the extension. So that showed already there. Now this year, and we get it, he had well, it wasn't just him. It was basically the whole Sun team. They had a terrible showing in that Game 7 against Dallas. So that was part of the reason why, a lot of people saw him, ended up being out. So now, with the whole rumors and everything of Kevin Durant possibly going. So I did expect Ayton to not be a part of that team, if there was a chance that Kevin Durant did go to the team. And now, of course, the Suns throughout most of this offseason kind of showed no interest in having Ayton. Then he signs with Indiana, and now they match that.
Yeah,
I just don't get it, honestly. Like, and there's been like multiple reports that came in like over the last week that still confuses the hell out of me, but it just doesn't make sense to me, to be real.
Yeah. They just didn't view him as a max player. It was pretty clear they didn't want to pay him the max unless someone else gave him the max. And honestly, for a lot of the offseason, it looked like they were right, because his market dried up the instant that free agency started. The Pistons were the one team that was going to offer him a max contract off the bat, and instead they end up drafting Dirk, who looks great, by the way. And I think they're happy with it. After him, there wasn't much on there. The Pacers made some moves to get some max cap space, and honestly, DeAndre Ayton with that core of Tyrese Halliburton, Ben Mathurin, by the way, who we didn't cover, had a couple of good games. In Summer League there, and Chris Duarte. You still need a big forward. What team doesn't? But that 4 is pretty solid. Obviously, now it's not going to happen, so they can tank for Wemby, which I believe they're going to do this year.
I would say so as well.
Yeah. That's going to be it for the Ayton stuff, but let's finish off with Donovan Mitchell, the big one. Donovan Mitchell is not up for sale. He is not openly on the trade block, but it has been reported and not refuted. I tried to say both those words in one a second ago, that the Utah Jazz are entertaining offers on Donovan Mitchell. It is going to take a lot to get Donovan Mitchell from the Utah Jazz. I understand why, if you're the Utah Jazz and he just signed this extension and he's a young superstar, you wouldn't trade him, even if you are going to try and tank and rebuild for a year. And I understand if you're a team that doesn't already have a number 1 player, why you wouldn't want to trade every single thing you have for a guy that I don't consider a number 1 player. And that's why a deal's probably not going to happen. Unless the New York Knicks trade everything they have, not everything, but a lot, for Donovan Mitchell. And I think that's just as likely as no trade happening. Dre, your thoughts?
So I kind of, I want to address it. Shout out to our brothers, the Hoopers pod. They've been on the show before. I've definitely been on their pod a few times. So I was listening to their pod today, and they were discussing this possibility of a trade. So I want to ask you this though: is getting rid of like guys like Quentin Grimes, Deuce McBay, and a few of those young guys, are those worth giving up for a guy like Donovan Mitchell? If you're the Knicks, who's looking to so let's say for instance that they're not really looking to become a contender, the Knicks are. Is that giving up for a guy like Mitchell?
I think the value is right. I think if you're the correct team, a couple of young pieces that aren't blue chip prospects, they're not Scotty, they're not Franz. Quentin Grimes is going to be a nice, solid player. I think he's got Gary Trent Jr. type value in this league, and it's cool if it's cheap on a contract like Quentin Grimes. But he's not a future superstar. He could be a future star, and I'm underrating him, but he's not a generational prospect. You know what I mean? He's not a player that is billed to be an all-star in 3 years. So, yes, him and a couple of guys, if you could hold on to Quickly and or Obi Toppin in that trade, that's awesome. And then you trade a bunch of picks. Sure, Donovan Mitchell is young enough and has enough years in his contract where you can talk yourself into not needing picks for a few years. And the Knicks have 4 picks that aren't their own. So you can include those without hurting yourself too much. I just wouldn't do it if my starting point guard was Jalen Brunson and my starting small forward was also a small RJ Barrett, and then you just have a small backcourt. If Donovan Mitchell is going to be my best player, I probably don't do that trade either. You said the other day when we were texting that it reminded you of the Carmelo trade, and I think that makes a lot of sense.
It
trade
does.
A lot of stuff, and you have some okay pieces around him, but you trade all your things for him to be your best player, and that's just not how it's going to work. If Cleveland traded a bunch of stuff right now, like Isaac Okoro, Ochai Agbaji, who they just drafted, Lauri Markkanen, and a bunch of picks for Donovan Mitchell, that's different. Because then you've got him next to Garland, still a small backcourt, but your front court is still massive with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. And Evan Mobley or Garland are your best player, or Mitchell. It's not just Mitchell's your best player. Mm-hmm. That I can see that the value is worth it to me there in that scenario. I'm sure there's a couple more situations that we could poke at that I would find that they would work, but I'm just not doing that if he's going to be my best player. How do you feel about that?
Right. And the only reason why I brought that up is because if you're not even touching RJ, you're not even putting him in that discussion if you're the Knicks.
No, of course not.
And then, unfortunately, you're probably stuck with Randall at this point.
So you can try and find a third team to take him because salary wise, you do have to make up to like the 30 something million that Donovan Mitchell makes. And a really easy
Exactly.
way of doing that is Julius Randle. But like you said, he's not going back to Utah, especially if they're trading Donovan Mitchell, they're trying to win 0 games this year. Julius Randle doesn't necessarily help you do that. So you have to find a third team willing to take him. And then you have to find either give up more of your own picks for that team to take his contract or convince Utah to take less picks and send 1 or 2 to a team to take Julius Randle. A team I could see right now just taking him and maybe sending other stuff is Charlotte. I could see Julius Randle in Charlotte pretty easily. He seems like the NBA ready player that Michael Jordan would love to have on his team. So
that's honestly a really good place for him. That probably could be.
They have an opening at power forward, and Julius Randle is pouty, but he's not a bad person, so that works.
That definitely works, but I don't know. Just comparing the whole Donny, like the hypothetical Donny situation to the Carmelo situation, because it makes me just reflect back. Around the same time before Melo got traded to New York from Denver, Amari Stoudemire was already there, and he was pretty much like the hottest thing in New York at that time.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, Melo gets there, and given injuries and everything, and everything else, Amari's value kind of dropped significantly around that time,
right.
Unfortunately. And then, of course, with that being said, the Knicks had probably like one good season, and then after that was just like 4 or 5 poor seasons to say the least. Yeah. So just looking at the situation, because here's the thing: at the end of the day, Carmelo was a great player, but he wasn't LeBron, he wasn't Kobe, he wasn't any of like these top tier players. I mean, you could probably consider him a superstar at that time, but he wasn't on that level. McGrady. Exactly. So that's the same thing. That's the same thing like with Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell is a great player, but he's not. I mean, would you say he's top 10? He's probably cracking top 10.
Who?
Donovan Mitchell, like today?
No.
He's not top 10 yet? Yeah. No, probably not. Like probably
on. I read you a list of 20 people that I'd rather have.
Yeah, he did. He definitely did.
Easily. But, and I could add even more to that list, man. I mean, that wasn't even including guys like Drew and Chris, so I wouldn't necessarily say I'm better than Donovan Mitchell, but like, nah, dude, he's not. And he's 25. He's 3 years away from his prime. He could get a lot better. He likely will. I just don't know if he's going to turn into the best player on a championship team, which is what the package.
And that's what it stems from. And that's where this all kind of stems from. Like, is Donovan that guy from New York? And that's why I compare it to like Carmelo, because like I mentioned, Carmelo was a great player, but he wasn't LeBron. Right. He wasn't Wade. He was Kobe. So it's almost like that same situation where it's like, like, in my opinion, like if you do get a Donovan Mitchell and you pair him alongside RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, or whoever, they could be a pretty decent playoff team, but they're definitely not getting probably not getting out of this round. So that's the whole. Go ahead.
Like if you're trading and you're pairing Donovan Mitchell and RJ Barrett, I actually really like that pairing. I think they're really dynamic. I think you can honestly start them at the 1 and the 2, and you can go big with your other 3. I would get it if you were starting over, but you're not. You already have a committed starting point guard in Jalen Brunson, who's going to take your height to small, especially if you add Donovan to that mix. And then you have this money to Julius Randle, who I wouldn't want to be paying, this extension to Mitchell Robinson. I like the Hartenstein. Like, if you had no money on the books and you were starting over with RJ Barrett and Donovan Mitchell, I'd say, yeah, there's definitely championship potential here. But there's just not. They don't have flexibility. That's the point. They don't have. If they make the Donovan Mitchell trade, they never have flexibility again, just like they did when they made the Melo trade. And if you don't have flexibility, you better have small contracts, like value contracts and picks to make trades. But you don't, because you used it all to get Donovan Mitchell. You're stuck in this purgatory that the New York Knicks have been in before. Let me make something very clear, though. If you're trading for Donovan Mitchell to be your second best player or your third best player, I think he's absolutely worth like 5 picks and a couple players. I think that's how good he is to be like if the Mavericks were considered to be interested in Kyrie, and obviously because of Kyrie they didn't have spending too much time thinking on that. But if I'm the Mavericks, Donovan Mitchell is absolutely a guy you go all in on. I don't think they have the trade file.
I think we mentioned that a few ago
yeah,
when we were fixing.
but if you're a team that can, like if you're Memphis, he's absolutely worth it, mainly because you have so much to offer, and pairing him and John Morant would be great. If you're a team like the Magic and you can pair together a bunch of stuff and get Donovan Mitchell together with Paolo and Franz, or even if you include Franz and you get some defense in return, get Vanderbilt or something like that. If you're a team like the Pelicans, who can trade a lot of stuff for a player right now. I mean, you could probably trade a bunch and still have Ingram and Zion on that roster, and you just pair that with Donovan Mitchell. I would absolutely trade all of the Milwaukee picks that I own and all of the there's another team that they own, the Lakers picks that I own for Donovan Mitchell easily, because then he's your third best player behind Ingram and Zion. I think he's absolutely worth it in that case. I just don't think any of those teams are willing to meet that price right now. The only team that is New York, and they're going to get stuck in this thing that we've been talking about. Dre, any final thoughts on this before we walk on out of here?
No, I mean, that definitely makes sense. Like once you break it down like that, it's like, if Donovan Mitchell was your second or third best player, then, you make whatever happen.
Right.
But considering, him going to the Knicks, and I get it, they just signed Jalen Brunson, but Jalen Brunson will be your best player, at least for the playoff contending team.
This year he might.
Well, yeah, probably with this team, honestly. But
right,
if you are looking to trade for Donovan Mitchell, he would definitely be your best player.
Right,
and that's not something that the team should give up all the assets for.
Right,
their young assets.
And they have other talent. Like if RJ Barrett was as good of a prospect as he is, but he was a big instead of a small, then it's like, yeah, you can pair Donovan Mitchell with like a big. You know what I mean? Like if RJ Barrett was Jaren Jackson Jr. instead of RJ Barrett, like yes, you can pair them. But if your projected star in Star J Barrett is also not that tall, RJ Barrett is 6'6". And Donovan Mitchell is 6'1". So Barrett's got wing size, but
that is still wild to me.
Okay, listen, to be fair, Donovan Mitchell is a big 6'1". He's 215 pounds.
He's huge.
And he has a 6'10" wingspan. So he's a big 6'1". He's not like a small guy by any means. But yeah, he is listed at 6'1".
I just would have never thought that, because I mean, honestly, like when you watch the games, he doesn't look like that small. He's smaller than guys like Steph Curry and John Morant. Like
he's the same height as Mike Conley, who you perceive to be this much smaller player than him.
Mm-hmm.
Same height as Terry Rozier.
This is insane. This is wild.
Yeah, man. But listen, so if you're listening out there, if you've got a number one player or a number two player and you got a lot of assets, you make that trade for Donovan Mitchell. If not, don't. And if you're the Knicks, please don't. I'm begging you to just write it out for a second. I'm already not a huge fan of all the stuff you've done this offseason, and I'm a big fan of Star J Barrett. I want him to flourish. That's going to wrap it up for us this week. Longer episode than I intended it to be. And yet, if you've been listening for longer than a couple of weeks, you know that we always run long. That's just how we operate. Dre, Agu Andre. A lot of hoops talk. At Nick Andre ATR on Twitter, as always. Dre, anything to plug? Articles coming out?
Yes. Forgotten Players Part 2.5.
Yeah.
August 1st.
Yeah.
Better check that out. Yeah. Set because I pushed it back. I actually pushed it back. It was expected to release July 11th, or the series was supposed to start July 11th, but I pushed it back because I thought free agency was going to be like out of the fucking water.
Yeah.
And it's been quiet as shit. And yeah, but you definitely look out August 1st, and I definitely have some other content coming before then. So yeah, just make sure to definitely check that out.
You can check us out at Hoop Truther Pod on Twitter, at Hoop Truther Studios on YouTube. We'll be doing sporadic episodes. We might not do something next week. Like I said, we're in the dead zone. Honestly, if nothing happens this week, we probably won't record next week. Obviously, if a trade happens, we'll throw up in a pod, maybe an emergency pod, figure out our schedules. If something else happens NBA-wise, we'll do it. I'd be down to just do a WNBA episode one of these days.
We got to make that happen, man. But, shout out to the W, man. Definitely give a big shout out to the W. I'm going to name just real quick a few of my top players this season. Obviously, well, at least my favorite players: Asia Wilson, Ryan Howard, Brianna Stewart, Skylar Diggins, Candace Parker. I guess I could say John Cole Jones. That's just a list of names. There's obviously a lot more, but shout out to the W.
Shout out to the W indeed. All-Star game just happened. A lot of pods are talking about it. I think we can pick this up. We could probably do like a playoff hour or something when they're in the playoffs. Talk
Oh
about
yeah,
like
let's
the
do it.
matchups and stuff like that. Get some
Definitely, let's
people to
do
come
it.
on.
And also, me and shout to people who cover W. Shout out to the committee. Shout out my boy Daniel Artez. Shout out to my boy K Dot who covered the W as well. We might have to get them on definitely to talk some WNBA in the next coming weeks.
That's gonna wrap it up. I'm exhausted. Dre, it's 10 o'clock where you are. You go to bed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Deuces.
Deuces.